Welcome to Project Candor, where ordinary people share the most unexpected stories. I'm your host, Jeanne Anderson, and around here, we don't chase the highlight reel. We open the door to the real stuff, the moments that change us, the turns that surprise us, and the stories you only hear when someone feels safe enough to share them. Every episode, we step into someone's world and discover what lives beneath the surface, beyond the job title, beyond the resume, beyond what you see on the outside. And today we get to do that again with a guest whose story might just shift how you think about your own. Let's get started. Our guest today is Yvonne Chotzen, an award-winning Hollywood TV movie producer best known for the Rosa Parks Story, and a seasoned litigator with years of high-stake courtroom experience. Today, Yvonne coaches entrepreneurs to unlock Hollywood-style storytelling that can catapult productivity and earnings to unprecedented levels, sometimes 5x and beyond. She brings together her background as an acclaimed television movie producer and her legal expertise to help people tell stories that actually move audiences and move the needle. Yvonne, welcome to Project Candor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeannie. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see you and get the time to talk to you since I've known you for, over a year now, maybe?
Yeah.
It's fantastic to see you here. And let's get started. I got interview questions for you that I really want to dig at what you're currently doing, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Good. Your work, let's start with that. Your work turned real lives into Hollywood-level stories. What's the moment in your life that first taught you the power of narrative?
Well, I don't know how far back you want to go, but as the eldest of 8 brothers and sisters, I grew up with a father who told bedtime stories every night. And when our family of 8 brothers and sisters grew to about 4, he turned to me as the eldest and said, "Vonnie," that was my nickname for Yvonne, "it's your job to use the bedtime stories to get your younger siblings to bed." And I don't know how many of you have ever tried to wrangle little kids to sleep at night, but I came up with a strategy that was my first training ground for storytelling. So I would go, "Story time, brush your teeth, the first person to sit on the bed next to me." And everybody would run around the house and get their toothbrush, and there was great excitement. The story starting. And it would have to be a story that started very, very high energy, very excited. But as the story went on, of course, the purpose was to put all the little ones to sleep. It would get slower and slower, and the little piggy, who is the hero of this story, would lie down and take a nap. You get where I'm going. So that by the end of the story, they were all almost asleep. So that was my first training ground. And that led into, we were a big family in a diverse community, and the kids wanted to make money. And so we got a big cardboard refrigerator box, cut it open with a big hole, painted it up with wild colors, and put flyers all over the neighborhood. And within weeks, we had a booming puppet show birthday party.
Oh, wow. I don't think you've ever told me that. Or if you did, I forgot. The first story you started with sounded like you were in The Sound of Music and you were the Von Trapp family. But the puppet story is phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah, it was really fun. And the kids loved it because, of course, kids love birthday parties. They got to have cake 3 times in one weekend sometimes. And they made money. So it was that was the early training ground.
Yeah, and come to think of it, The Sound of Music, they had the marionette show. Oh my gosh. You were totally in there.
We didn't sing as well as them, but our puppet shows were great.
Who made your puppets?
We made them everything ourselves. We got burned out light bulbs, which I think sometimes my siblings unscrewed some light bulbs before they weren't quite to the chagrin of my parents. And we paper mache'd them, strips of newspaper and a glue made out of flour and water. And then we painted them up. And put our little hands in them and through the
Oh,
holes. It was quite fun, and that experience led. I actually was in a diverse community as well in college, and I thought, you know, there's kids everywhere. I put out flyers. I did it again, and I was charging $400 a birthday party, and I couldn't fulfill all the requests for entertainment that I had. That was in
that
Bronxville.
sounds so ingenious at your age. Oh my God. $400 for a birthday party. How old were you?
Well, at that point, I was in college, and so what I
Oh,
what
okay. I
I'm
missed
saying
that.
is I continued because I was in an upscale neighborhood. I continued the strategy. By then, I had a well-designed portable stage that collapsed and was very light. But I would go to these mansions in the area of upstate New York where I was, and I would put on these puppet shows and tell stories and lead treasure hunts. And it was lots of fun to be doing that on the weekends too. It was an irregular job, but the first time I got to really see the monetizing power of story.
Yes. See, my mom told me once that she thought because I was always happy and funny and doing crazy things that I should do birthday parties and be a clown. Well, that was a no. I was not going to dress up like a clown. I wish I'd known you. You could have told me how to do it.
We could have done
Puppet
it
shows
together.
would exactly. Puppet shows would have been better.
Yeah,
So
so
that was when you knew that, yeah, I mean, I can see how that would give you the dynamics of the power of narrative that, what you can do with a story. That's just amazing. So, question
yeah,
number two, let's move on to that one because this one is good. And I know you got a lot of good info. As a producer of the Rosa Parks story, you had a front row seat to history through storytelling. What did the project teach you about courage, truth, or quiet strength that still shapes you today?
wow, that's such a great question, and it's the whole journey to being blessed to be selected as the producer for the Rosa Parks story in itself could fill this whole podcast because at that point I was a complete unknown, and Mrs. Parks and her team had decided to have her movie, her life story, made at the end of her life. And I was already in Hollywood, and I just couldn't get the time of day. I had had one big hit based on one of my crime stories from being a federal public defender. But as Bette Midler says, you're only as good as your last 3 minutes. The moment had come where, secretaries didn't let their boss return my calls. I couldn't get on lots. I was really desperate. And then I saw in Variety, the news publication, like Hollywood Reporter, I think they placed it in both actually, that she was looking for the producing team to make her story. And I remembered when I was growing up in the inner city Seattle neighborhood where we lived, that Mrs. Kelly, who was our fourth grade teacher, had put on the bulletin board a picture of the young Mrs. Parks with her hair pulled back in a bun and underneath the word courage. And it was up there my whole fourth grade year on the bulletin board. And she told us the story of how this dignified woman came out of Montgomery Fair department store in 1952 on a windy, blustery night and clambered aboard bus number 56, which was her bus, and sat down where people of color were allowed to sit. They could sit in the back, but they were allowed to sit in the center section of the bus if there were seats available. So Mrs. Parks sat there. She had her little handbag and she was sitting looking straight ahead when suddenly at the next stop, many people clambered onto the bus. And Jeannie, there was no more room. And a hulking white gentleman in a wet raincoat stood over her and said, "Are you going to get up?" And she just looked straight ahead. And he went to the front and summoned Mr. Bates, the bus driver, who stood over her and yelled the same thing. "Are you going to give up your seat, lady? You know the law in Montgomery, Alabama here." And she said 4 words, which changed the course of history. Quiet, dignified, "No, I will not." And that ignited what we know today as the civil rights movement, because the police were called. Mrs. Parks was taken off the bus, handcuffed, driven to the Montgomery police station, where she was given a mugshot, put in a cell with 2 prostitutes who were there and had been arrested, and held. And this indignity outraged the Black community, because she was one of the most upright citizens, and ignited, as we know, the boycott of the Montgomery bus system, which went on for 166 days and brought the bus system to a halt, because the majority of people who rode the buses were African American, and the bus system was going under. So that is, that, when you ask about courage, is, I mean, I thought, I remembered that story as a little kid, and I thought about it so often. And so I wrote it in a letter to her. And I got that letter to her, basically just told that story in my letter. Well, I got one of the calls to have an interview with her. And when I arrived at the lot in my beat up powder blue Volkswagen, I was like, on all sides of me were these huge black limousines, like Laura Marr, and Warner Brothers were there. Warner Brothers was putting up a 60-foot screen to show their latest Batman to her and her team. And I don't have a chance. I was so nervous, and I walked in.
Intimidating, for sure.
Intimidating. And initially, I was one of the first people they said yes to, apparently, because I was given a 30-minute slot. And they said, "We're sorry, Miss Chotzen." And my heart just fell. I thought they're going to cancel me. And they said, "You only have 7 minutes." And my heart was just pounding when they ushered me in. And Jeannie, there she was, right across the table, the same iconic bun, except instead of being black like it was in the picture on the bulletin board in 4th grade, it was now silver white. Mm-hmm. She said, "Dearie, why should we give you this huge responsibility as a new and a young, movie producer?" And I was just so I was completely overcome. I mean, even now, when I remember that moment, I just get choked up, because here's this iconic woman, on the level of a Mother Teresa, just feet away from me across the table. And I was just getting all teary. And when I saw my story on her table, I just thought, "Mrs. Parks, if you give me the opportunity to make your story, I will get it in every library across the land. And for the rest of my life, anytime I'm asked, I will speak to children and tell your story." And and I just by then tears were running down my face, and they ushered me out.
You're almost making me cry.
And I got the call, and it starred Angela Bassett and Cicely Tyson, and the rest is history. I mean, my phone rang constantly off the hook. It was a huge hit. It won the NAACP Family Movie of the Year award. I mean, talk about beginner's luck. And it's in every library today.
You're not a beginner. You were the stage and screen producer of puppet shows.
That's true. Thank you for the reminder.
You had it in you.
I'm sure that was a training ground. Like I said, children are the most difficult audience to keep attentive. So it was great training. And there was
I'm not minimalizing this at all. I'm just saying you can't cut yourself short. You were preparing for this for a long time. It's a wonderful movie. I've seen that movie. I think it's a wonderful movie. I'm so proud to know you. And don't make me cry. It's supposed to be my show.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
that is fantastic to hear. I want to keep going, though. I want to keep asking you so much stuff. So I will put a mark down that one day we need to just have a show just about that because there's just so much to talk there. But another question would be, basically, you've been a litigator. You said you were a federal defense attorney,
hmm
and a world that's just a breeding ground of stories. I think it's a world where storytelling has very real consequences. So, how did the courtroom sharpen the storytelling methods you now teach entrepreneurs?
that is just a great question, Jeannie, because picture this. The way a defense attorney office works, at least the federal public defender's office in Honolulu, Hawaii, where I was the lead, I was called first assistant attorney, is you never know when an arrest is going to happen. And so you're sitting there, quietly doing your legal research, and then boom, Chotzen, get down to the lockup. There's a murder case. And you go, oh, my adrenaline would just start running. And it was like, because there's always that question, that I think we all have imposter syndrome. Oh, no, am I going to be able to handle this? You never know what
A
you're going to.
murderer. I know I couldn't.
So I run down there. It's in the basement of the federal building, and I go into this small interview room, and the U.S. Marshals say they want her in a few minutes, and that's what happens. You have a few minutes with the person who's arrested to find their story, because picture this: you're in the courtroom. The U.S. Marshals bring your client in. You go in with your briefcase. You sit at a defense table. But the first thing that happens is a prosecutor stands up, and no matter how small or large the case is, inevitably the prosecutor says no bail. So you, in those few minutes you have before you go into the courtroom, have to quickly extract the essence of the person's humanity. Because if you don't, if you aren't able to convince that magistrate, that jury, that judge to take a chance on this person who somehow terribly screwed up their life and is sitting next to you, they will appear when trial starts in an orange jumpsuit, leg irons that have to be unlocked in front of the jury, and often handcuffs. Now compare that start of a trial to somebody who's sitting next to you, beautifully coiffed, or if it's a guy in a nice suit jacket, looking like not only a regular person, but someone you might see in church. Right there, those two non-verbal statements all are determined based on the story that you can tell in those first moments to see if you can get your client bail. So talk about a training ground where the stakes to somebody's freedom, or maybe the whole trajectory of their life, can be swayed. That's a training ground for storytelling, for narrative that moves and touches people deeply, that compares to none other. And it was so stressful because I knew I had to quickly find out, what is it about this person that would make that jury feel like, oh, that could be my auntie, or that could be my brother's kid who's kind of acts out, or do you see where I'm going?
Right, exactly. Right. Well, and I do know that while you were sitting in Honolulu, I was over in Pearl Harbor.
That's right. We
I guess that always amazes me to know that I meet you all this time from when I was in the U.S. Navy. You were doing uh, defense for federal defense attorneys, and
on the same
actually,
line. Yeah.
yeah, on the same person. I was reading reports for the captain, to tell him what was going on. And since that was a civilian case at that point, the other part of it was the Navy Marine case, and then. Yeah, so I had to keep up with the newspapers, and I had no idea years later I would meet you. That's amazing. Well, let's go ahead. I got another one. When you let's see, there's so many I could think of to say. You help you help founders 5x their results through Hollywood style narrative. So I'm when I think about that, it's any business owner. It's not just a Hollywood, somebody trying to write a script or a writer. It's any type of person. So what's the biggest storytelling mistake business owners make in trying to communicate their value?
I think the biggest mistake all and the majority of business owners make is they don't realize the magnetic, transcendent power of story. They probably don't use stories or don't use them enough, or they don't think they have a story, but everyone has a story and every business has a story. And it's not just telling a story. It's telling the signature story of your program or your product that plants in people that desire to buy. It just authentically communicates who you are as a person and what, you may be selling widgets or HVAC or raising Great Danes. It doesn't matter. If you can communicate your personal passion around your work, it connects on such a powerful level that you never have to sell. You don't. The story is that connectivity.
That's a fantastic answer because I don't like to do business with people unless I can see that they're human and not robotic. And I know a lot of people they are selling to me, and sometimes it's high pressure, but sometimes it makes no sense. Why are you coming to me to sell this to me? I'm not even the right client for you. So, yeah, I think your program is very, very beneficial and very necessary if you want to achieve good success as a business owner or in any walk of life. But that's maybe because I took one of your classes and I know how fantastic you are.
Thank
Um,
you.
so can you tell us a moment when a client finally got it, when their story snapped into place and everything changed for them?
Well, the moment that opened the door to Hollywood was probably a moment like that, even though the person didn't walk away free. And that's the case that I first referenced, which is I go down to the lockup and there's this woman, big hair, big breasts out to here, and she was furious. She was just enraged. And she said, not only did they haul me across the country, but they took away my baby daughter. And she was mumbling and she was yelling. I didn't know what the circumstances were or what had happened. And that case turned out to be a triangle love affair with a murder and a child kidnapping. And again, the details of it would fill a whole podcast, but briefly, what had happened was Kathy was a Marine wife on Kaneohe Air Corps Marine Station, and her husband, Chris, was sent to sea for months and months and months. And she foolishly fell into a love affair with his best friend. And they were in bed together in her barracks apartment, base housing. They were in base housing when Chris was flown back with a stomach ailment, walked in to surprise her and found her in bed with his best friend. A terrible fight ensued, and sadly, Chris was killed. He was murdered right there in the fight with a knife from their kitchen. And Kathy's mother-in-law, Chris's mother, Mary Brown, who lived in a small town in Alabama, was very wealthy and powerful. And she literally, got charges drawn up against Kathy so that she was labeled an unfit mother. She lost all access to her daughter. Little Christy had been away at the base barrack daycare at the time, thank goodness. But Kathy was desperate to see her. Little Christy was only 4 years old when the murder happened. And Kathy had gone back to the small town where her daughter had been taken to many times, tried to knock on the door, seek legal assistance. No way. In fact, the Brown family put up a barbed wire barrier around their house. There was no way Kathy had access. But if you know anything about the South, there's one day in the year where the whole town turns out, the 4th of July. Kathy banked on that. Even though she was blonde, she put on a black wig. Her sister did the same thing. And with their boyfriend, who kept a car running in the bushes, they waited. And sure enough, little Christy, who is now almost 6, went running out into the field chasing a ball after they'd been lying in wait for about 3 hours. And Kathy ran out into that field and she grabbed her little girl and she said, "Baby, Mama's missed you so much." And she hugged her girl and she took Christy and they raced to the car. And that instituted a 5-state chase. Well, if you cross state lines, it becomes a federal case. And the FBI became involved and chased her and chased her. She managed to hide out for several months. Mary Brown put up posters that appeared in every woman's shelter. And sure enough, one night in a raging storm, Kathy trundled into one of those shelters with little Christy. They were soaking wet. And they were greeted. They were given food and shelter. But what they didn't know is that the room they were put into for the night was locked from the outside. And when she woke in the morning, the FBI were waiting for her. Christy was returned to her grandmother, Mary Brown, and Kathy was extradited across the country and the ocean. And that's how I came in contact with her on that morning in the Honolulu courthouse. But feeling was so intense. You know, it's like the whole Marine Corps turned out that the judge decided to shift the case to Los Angeles because you see in federal court, you can appear before any federal judge in your system, and Honolulu, Hawaii is in the same jurisdiction as Hawaii and some of the other West Coast states, California, I believe Idaho. In any case, there I was on a Wednesday morning, having just gotten off a plane to go meet her and defend her. I remember it was a rainy Wednesday morning, and we're sitting at defense table. She had been brought on the same plane, but was in the back with 2 marshals sitting on each side of her. Usually the public doesn't know when somebody's being accompanied by guards, and that's how they did it. But people were pouring into the courtroom. I couldn't figure it out. Nothing like I'd ever seen in small town Honolulu. So I took my legal pad and I wrote a note to the prosecutor and I said, "Who are all these people pouring in the courtroom? What's going on?" And he whispered to me, because the judge was about to come in, "They're all Hollywood producers. Life rights of your client." And then I thought, oh my goodness, this could be the moment I've been waiting for. Because you see, at that point, I'd been defending the indigent for over a decade, and I was longing to tell stories bigger than a jury of 12 to just a larger audience. So I jumped up right when the judge came in and I said, "Your Honor, recess. I need to see the client. It's urgent." And we ran down to the lockup, and in the room that the marshals had put Kathy was a bare table, 1 chair she was sitting on, and 2 things: a bright red apple and a white napkin. And I said, "Kathy, these producers are circling like vultures. They want your life rights. What do you want to do?" And she reached across and took the only thing I had the presence of mind to bring with me, which was a pen, grabbed that pen, took that white napkin and wrote, "Yvonne Chotzen, is my executive producer, and I still get chills when I think.
Oh, wow.
I looked at that napkin and I looked at her like, what do you mean? And she said, my little girl is never going to get access to me until she's 18. And she's getting messages of hate. I never tried to have her father hurt, but she'll never know that because she's growing up with a grandmother that hates me. She said, get all the money you can for my baby as my life rights. Have it go to her. And that's what I did. The next day, I was pitching at NBC. I picked one. It was 3 days later. I picked somebody that seemed like the most successful. And I walked into the room at NBC where you pitch movies, and I had never done that before, of course. And I was, nervous. Am I going to be the right person to produce for her? And all the executives, they were wearing like $300 Gucci t-shirts, black jeans, black t-shirts, black, everything was black. And I was like, I was in my Honolulu bright clothes because everyone was there with flowers. And I felt so out of place. And I thought, it's like anytime you like do something that has great importance, momentousness for somebody else, you feel that burden. And then I remembered, I've argued for people's freedom for a decade. If I mess up here or they say no, nobody goes to prison for the rest of their life, or worse. Some people were facing the death penalty that had been my clients. Can you imagine the pressure of that on young attorneys? But I didn't mess up. Not only did they say yes, but it became more than a 2-hour. It became a 4-hour miniseries starring Martin Sheen and Patty Duke that broke NBC's 8-year record of the most watched miniseries in all that time. And my phone never stopped ringing off the hook.
Oh, I remember you telling me about the movie, and I found it. So for those listening,
you read it.
I found it on YouTube. It comes in 2 parts. It is very good, but if you like Patty Duke, by the end of that movie, you will not like her anymore. She's a very good actress because she convinced me that I really did not like her. Her character. I have to say her character because she's been in a lot of great things.
You did a good job because Mary Brown was the antagonist in that story. So yeah, she did her job as an actress, but it's called Matter of Justice. Yeah. And it's in the public domain. Anyone can see it for free. So check it out. It's
on YouTube for sure. Just check it out. Yeah. It's a good movie. He'll tell you a lot about Yvonne. Yvonne, so we got to flip the script here. This has been such a joy having you here, but I think talking with you is always time well spent, but we need to move on to my favorite part of Project Candor. So what we're going to do now is it's time for the 3-story headlines. Our guest has provided 3 headlines of stories, personal stories. 2 are true and 1 is a lie. So we're going to read off her stories, and then I'm going to guess which one is the lie. There is one in there. It was hard because yours are so robust and wonderful and rich in details, but there is one with a Yvonne twist that makes me think it might be a little too perfect. Well, I'm going to read them out loud. I'm going to share my screen. So give me 1 second to do that. And so those watching can see it, but then I'll read it out for anybody just listening. And don't tell me yet what is the lie. All right. So do you see my screen, Yvonne?
I do.
Okay.
I love this. This makes your Jeannie, this makes your podcast unique in the world. This is so much fun. And everybody that I'm sending to you, I'm telling them, you got to get on this podcast. It's so much fun.
Well, you're in the ship's log now. And if you see my logo, it could be happy story, sad story, but the blushing winker is definitely the lie. But we'll get to the real truth of this, or I'll make you walk the plank. um, yeah, all of that comes from my ex-Navy career. So
Love
I
it.
can't help myself. And I live down here in sunny, beautiful St. Augustine, Florida. So yeah, the water is my bag, so to say. So Yvonne, let me read these out. Hiking in Mount Rainier National Forest, Yvonne and her 9-pound chihuahua came face to face with a 180-pound grizzly bear. To make him leave, she sang, and you're going to have to pronounce that. How do you say Shama?
Shema Yisroel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Ehad. That's a call for God to come and save you in the Hebrew.
So you sang that at the top of your lungs, and you said it's a Jewish prayer that thanks the divine for life. I think I would be
Right.
thanking for my life at that point too. That's going to be a fun story to hear. And then number 2, on the quest to visit 15 of the world's holy spots, Yvonne crashed the Vatican to receive a papal blessing from Pope John Paul II. 14 months later, her son Aaron was born. I'm not sure about that one. And you said you skipped the line in front of people that have been waiting 5 years to see the Pope. That's funny. So
Right.
we'll get to that story. Number 3, Ginger, the family's Russian blue cat, became an unexpected hero, single-handedly lunging at an intruder and saving Yvonne's family, who later joked that Ginger was the smartest one in the family or in the house. So I'm going to guess that the one that's incorrect is number 3, but I don't know. But let's hear from you. So what do you have to tell us about these stories, Yvonne?
This episode is sponsored by Rebel 180, the home of brave pivots and fresh starts. Rebel 180 is all about helping you rediscover what's possible when you stop settling and start listening to that little tug inside that says, life can be different. Whether you're navigating a career shift, dreaming about a new direction, or standing at the crossroads wondering if it's time for your own 180-degree turn, Rebel 180 is a reminder you don't need permission to change your story. And now, as we open the door to our second sponsor, we're stepping into the world of tech. Simple Socket Print, the lightweight, blazing fast label print solution designed for those who need reliability without the bloat. With version 1.5, you get instant printing in milliseconds, fully maintained print sequence, and automatic base 64 decoding, all without needing print driver installs. If you're running SQL Server 2016 or newer, Simple Socket Print 1.5 drops right in and gets to work. Keep your workflow simple. Keep your label printing fast with Simple Socket Print. Thank you to our sponsors.
Yeah, so I was hiking with my dog, and I'm an avid hiker, and the rule is don't hike alone. And I've always considered hiking with an animal who, as you know, has extrasensory perceptions over a human is the way to do it. But in this case, it was my little Chihuahua, and yeah, we came around a bend, and there was this huge grizzly there, and it was just terrifying. And my twin daughters had been recently preparing for their bar mitzvah, which is like the equivalent of confirmation in almost every religion when they turn 13. And I had heard that prayer over and over and over and over as they were practicing, and it just came out of me. It wasn't anything that I anticipated. I just started belting it out. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know where that inspiration came from, and the bear trotted off.
Don't the daughters do bat mitzvahs?
It is a bat mitzvah, you're correct. That's
Okay.
a perfect correction. It's bar for boys, bat for girls, and then if you're a girl-boy twin, it's b'nai, and I only know that because I have
Oh,
a
I didn't
twin.
know that.
Yeah. So we did ours together, and it was a B'nai mitzvah. But yeah, that's a little bit of that's almost all the Hebrew I know.
Well, that would have been, I can't even imagine. So I guess the Lord helped you through that one, or your singing was so bad.
That's very likely what it was.
I just don't know if it was bad enough to deter a hungry bear, but maybe he had just eaten somebody down the other trail. I don't know. That's scary. What did your chihuahua do?
My chihuahua was growling, and I was afraid he was going to attack. And the fur on his back was like straight up, like I'd never seen. And he was literally, I thought, if he tries to attack, and because this dog had no idea that he was like 11 pounds. He thought he was, huge. And he often was very aggressive with big dogs. And so I was very nervous that he would leap and attack.
Jump from your hand.
Yeah. I grabbed him and put him in my arms, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's like if I let him go and he attacks, we're going to have a bloodbath here. So I was as scared for him as I was for myself. But I had heard that you're not supposed to run, that you're supposed to stand your ground and look big as you can and stare them in the eyes. Anyway, the song just came out of me.
That is so funny that it just came out. I would not have known what to do, because I have family in Alaska, and I know they carry guns in Alaska just because bears will come into the town. And my sister-in-law had been going to church, and somehow the door she was going to go into was locked, and somebody just ran a truck up onto the grass and started yelling, and she turned around to find a bear right behind her. And fortunately, that truck got in between her and the bear, and she and her daughter were able to run around to another door, but she broke her leg. And
Oh my
gosh, these bears are super dangerous. I mean, they attack all over the place. I told her, I do not want to live in Alaska. I don't want to carry that gun, and I don't want to shoot a bear, and I don't want to see one. Okay, number 2. Now, I think when I typed this up to get it on the screen, I missed the part that you were visiting these places because you were you were trying to be pregnant. So that's why you got all these blessings and from different places. Tell us all the places you went.
Yeah, we'd tried for years to get pregnant. First, we thought the problem was with me, and then it turned out the problem was with my husband. And, years had gone by. We tried in vitro. We were just desperate. And I was desperate. I remember the day, it's like, as the eldest of 8 kids, and I already told you I did tons of childcare for years. Right. I had absolutely no interest in babies. Don't show me a baby. They smell like dirt. I mean, all those images from being a kid who had to do all that childcare. And one day I was already a producer, and my husband and I used to take this shortcut in Hollywood through the Cinerama Dome Theater, which was a shortcut through a little shopping center that had a department store. And we always would park there because it was the fastest way to get into the theater, which was a very famous old theater, which sadly has been taken down. But anyway, we were rushing through the department store, and all of a sudden I came to this rack that had baby clothes on it. And I stopped. I'm like putting this little frilly frou-frou tutu up to my face. And I remember still today, it was like pink. It was fluffy. Even then, I imagined a baby in it. And I was just filled up with tears. And my husband came back and said, "We're going to be late for the movie. What are you doing?" And I just said, "I want to have a baby. I need to have a baby." And this
right
is
in the movie.
Right in the theater. I mean, right in the department store.
Department store. That's even worse.
No, the department store. So I hung up the little dress, and we made it to the movie. And after the movie, which was, I don't even remember, he said, "Now, what was that all about?" And so we walked back, And the same like overwhelming urge came to me again. And that was the moment that I went on my quest as an older mom to bring through this angel that I felt like was like calling me to come through. And we had our struggles, and there we were. And so I thought, I'm going to take a pilgrimage, because we tried everything. We also tried adoption. We got turned down 3 times. I mean, each of those stories is so dramatic. Anyway, there I was. And I thought, I'm going to go to all the holy fertility spots of the world on this pilgrimage. If nothing else, I'll have a book to write. And so we went to these beautiful places. I hiked up Mauna Loa, which is the highest mountain in Hawaii if you count from the base of the ocean, and made an offering.
Did you throw a virgin over the edge? I mean,
didn't throw a virgin, but I brought an offering, and it was bizarre because on the way down, I saw this like little colorful thing on a rock, and I went over, and somebody had left a little carved image of a turtle. And I felt like that's left there for me, because in Hawaii mythology, the turtle is the symbol of fertility. And then I started, we went to Europe, we went to Scotland. I mean, each place we went. And then, of course, we had to go to the Vatican, the most holy place on earth. And the line, it was Christmas Eve, almost the same time as now. And people had tickets in their hands. And I said, how do you get to see the Pope and get a blessing? And they said, oh, we've been waiting 5 years. You'll never get in. It took us years to get these tickets. And I just did a little prayer right on the spot. And I won't tell you the whole story because some magic was involved, but we got in and I got that blessing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 15 months later that the fertility treatments, after multiple tries, worked. And I found out I was pregnant.
What a wonderful story. But one of these days I want to find out what you did. Because jumping in line, that's not cool, Yvonne. But especially after they waited 5 years. So there's got to be something in there to redeem you.
Yeah.
But I guess it's because you had your son. So
I had my son. I feel like he'll bring all the blessings to the world and make amends for.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you didn't kick any old ladies. All right. What about Ginger? Because I'm fascinated on YouTube with stories of pets. I've seen cats smack bears and they run. And so now you got a cat that stopped the burglar. So what's that about?
So we lived in, as I mentioned a few times, a diverse neighborhood, but everybody knew each other. And my cat was also known widely in the neighborhood. She would there was a fence that went along a cul-de-sac, a culvert, and that fence bordered a lot of backyards. She would walk for 10 blocks on that fence from one end to the other. She was so audacious. She would go 3 doors down and climb up the side of a house to get into the bedroom where a 17-year-old cat lived and eat his food.
Oh my gosh.
She was so audacious. We had a lively household because by then we had, kids and they were bringing their kids over. We were sort of the neighborhood family where everyone crashed. And so occasionally, disturbed by our teenagers, she would just take off and we would have to go door to door looking for her. And the houses that she preferred is where she was treated like a complete princess. And I remember knocking on doors and finally this beautiful house, they opened the door and I could see down the hallway in front of the TV, perched on a red velvet pillow with little gourmet cat containers that had been eaten all around her. She was sitting on this pillow and she looked at me And she looked away as if to say, I'm not coming home. Cat food and that noisy house and those wild kids. And and the people said, oh, can we keep her? And I said, no.
She's a brat. She ran away from home.
She ran away from home to be treated like a princess. Anyway,
That sounds like Shirley Temple in the Attic. I don't remember what that movie was.
I love that movie too. Anyway, yeah, and so we heard some. We didn't actually hear it. There was a break-in at a window on the backside of our house, and I just remember Ginger screamed and she ran down the stairs, and we all woke up. We thought something was terribly wrong and turned on all the lights. And the guy from her screaming and the lights going on and the people running down the stairs, he broke the window, jumped out, and ran away. So we never found who it was.
You never found it?
No. Oh. But nothing was taken. And he did leave like a black, those hoods that people put over their heads. That we found, we gave to the police. But, how can you get fingerprints off a piece of cloth? You can't. So that's the Ginger story.
Well, that's a good story too. Well, I guess that one, didn't I say that was the one I didn't believe? So which one is the lie?
That one's the lie. So it's all true. She often ran down the stairs at night and screamed, but there was never a burglar.
Oh, okay.
Anything else I told you is true. She is just the most audacious cat. Today she's 14 and she's still in our lives, and we love her.
Nice. Okay, so it was sort of true, but that's fine. That was fun.
Yeah.
You have so many stories, so many that we could go on for hours, and we just need to do other podcasts with you. But thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, thank you. It's so fun to be with you, and I love your.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just said I think your questions, the design of your podcast, and I've done many, and my work is unique in the world. And I know you're going to be having a queue for a year and a half. I'm so lucky to be at the ground floor and getting to do this interview with you.
That'll be so much fun. Well, I want to tell the people that are viewing or listening how to get in touch with you. So my screen is still being shared. So here's how you contact Yvonne. I want to read out her quote because I thought that was just a very powerful quote. Each of us has a unique gift we came to give, our own zone of genius. I love that, Yvonne. So I'm glad you let me put it on here. Do you want to talk about how people could get in touch with you and find their own zone of genius?
Absolutely. I'd be thrilled to work with any of you in the audience. You can reach me at Yvonne at YvonneChotzen.com, YVONNE at Yvonne Chotzen, CHOTZEN.com. And I will be delighted to work with you for 30 minutes to start you on your story journey, finding that just right signature story that's going to catapult your product or your program. It's my joy, as you can tell from being a listener today. Stories are my life. They're my joy. They give me energy, and it's my gift to the world. So come and click on the link that's here. The calendar is open, and you can book and have a time with me to find your story. Because if you tell your story like Hollywood, it will make you and your product, your program, or your brand the star, and you'll never have to sell again.
Nice. That's amazing. And I know you have a lot of success. We could list off a lot of your clients and their big successes. So I know you're not going to brag too much, but I can brag for you. I do know a lot of folks that work with you and are just so thankful for what you've done for them. So I do appreciate you being here, and as just not just a guest, but as a friend, that you have shared all these things. And please come back again. For those of you listening, we'll come back next week with another guest. I'm going to try to stop presenting this, so you can see Yvonne a lot clearer now. But thank you so much again. And next week, everybody, stay tuned for Project Candor podcast, where we'll have a new and exciting guest. Maybe not as exciting as Yvonne, but maybe exciting in a different way. All right. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne. I'm going to stop recording now, and we'll talk soon.